Talking about the concept of socialization, Erik Erikson's 8-step theory of psychosocial development is also one of the important theories in this field. However, this is not so important from your exam perspective because very few questions, or if at all, will go into the depth of this theory. All you should be aware of is that Erik Erikson is a German-American developmental psychologist and psychoanalyst, and he developed the 8-step theory of psychosocial development. He is also well known for the fact that he coined the phrase identity crisis, which is very frequently used these days. This is the table that is depicting Erik Erikson's 8-stage theory of psychosocial development. You don't have to worry much about this theory as I have mentioned, because very rarely will you see any questions going into the depth of this theory. But just to be on the safer side, we'll just have a brief overview of what this theory is all about. So Erik Erikson says that a person normally will go through 8 stages of psychosocial development, and these 8 stages are divided as per the age that the person goes through. For example, in stage 1, when the child is just between 0 to 1 years, this is infancy, then the question that the child is trying to answer is, can I trust this world? That is, the conflict in the child's mind is between trust and mistrust. So a very young child will start identifying his or her mother and says that this lady who is feeding me is safe. The child will get used to being held by the father and starts to trust the father and decides that this person is safe because he holds me and he comforts me, he plays with me. Right? So the child has identified the people who are safe and who can be trusted, and everybody else should not be trusted. So if you pick up a very young child, the child will start crying, because if a stranger picks up the child immediately notices that this is not my mother, this is not my father, so this person cannot be trusted. So the child starts crying, and as soon as the mother or the father pick up the child might stop crying. So that is because the child is trying to answer whether I can trust this person or no. So that is the age when can I trust the world is the question in the person's mind. Next is early childhood. In early childhood, the child is trying to control his or her own body. Right? The child has learned to walk. The child is learning to control his or her own potty and urination, because the child might be wearing a diaper at some times and might not be wearing a diaper at some times. And the child starts to notice that if he or she urinates or defecates anywhere, then the people around him or her might be angry and they might say, "Chi, chi, chi, what did you do?" So the child starts to learn between autonomy and shame. And the child is trying to answer, can I control my own behavior? And bodily functions, control of bodily functions is also part of controlling this behavior. So this is the stage when the child is trying to get control over his or her own body. Next comes play age. In play age, the child is becoming more independent, and the child is walking around playing with the things around him or her, and the child is trying to answer, how independent can I be? That is, the child will go and try to play with something, but the moment the child will get a little afraid, the child will run back towards his or her parents. So the child is trying to experiment between how confident am I or how confident can I be, and the child is trying to overcome the guilt or the doubt factor. Right? The child is trying to become more independent. Next comes school age. In school age, the child is already growing up, and the child has been exposed to a lot of socialization, and the child is also has the understanding that many of the things that are being taught in school are very important from a future perspective. So the child is trying to understand, can I understand whatever is being taught? Can I learn whatever is being taught? Because these are necessary for future, right? And the child is trying to understand, can I master these skills? Next comes adolescence. In adolescence, this is where the identity crisis part comes in, because the adolescent is trying to understand, what is my part in this world? Where do I fit in, right? So who am I? What are my beliefs, feelings, attitudes? So these are the questions that the adolescent is trying to answer. So these are also the teenage years. So typically you see that there is the teen years or the teenage years when people go through, or children go through, a lot of psychological adjustment. So that is because they are trying to answer these questions. Next comes early adulthood. In early adulthood, the people are already sexually mature and they are looking at intimate relationships. And the question that they are trying to answer here is, can I fully give myself to another person? That is, they are experimenting with the concept of love. They are experimenting with the concept of trust and seeing that whether they can fully give themselves to another person, fully trust another person. So this is the stage in which people fall in love, fall out of love, right? And then comes mature adulthood. Here, the person is already in a proper job and the person probably already has a family, and the person is looking at what can I offer to the succeeding generation, because the person is trying to build a future for his or her children. And the question is, what can I do for the next generation? Then the last stage is old age, wherein the person is already reaching the end of his or her life, and the question that is in his or her mind is, what have I achieved throughout my life? Am I content with whatever I have done? Should I have done something else? So the stage where the person will be contented with his or her life or feel a sense of regret. So this is the last stage. So these are the 8 stages of psychosocial development that Erik Erikson says that almost every person will go through. So as I mentioned, don't worry too much about this theory. You can pause the video here and go through the table, read through each of these. It is a fairly simple theory, but you won't see too many questions going into the depth of this.